Hello and welcome back to episode 26 of the Boxing Social podcast in association with Betfred, with me, your host, Rob Tebbutt. As always, just before we get started, I'd just like to remind everybody to please follow, subscribe and turn those notifications on for more boxing content. Now that's out of the way, I am delighted to be joined by our esteemed guest this week, Mr. Barry Jones, former WBO super-featherweight champion of the world / gun for hire, and Declan Taylor, esteemed journalist, also gun for hire. It's like the job centre today on the Boxing Social podcast. But thanks for joining me.
It's the Who Needs Him club.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us, guys. Not that you had anything else to do, but thank you very much, Barry. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you. Nice to see you as well. I'm sat like Declan. And I'm really uncomfortable. Really uncomfortable.
I could reach you.
What's that?
I could reach you from here, come on.
Anyway, seriously, yeah, it's good. Nice to be back.
A mirror image of each other. How are you, Deck? Nice to see you.
I'm not too bad. I would have been better if you had done something on your intro there, which we spoke about before we started. You need a trademark. Yeah, you need a trademark.
Actually, that's probably what holds, no offence, holds you back.
Hang on, Barry. I'm the only one with a job out of us three.
I know that.
No, but I think I would be better if you'd done something, and I could have gone. There's the Tebbutt that we know and love.
There's the Tebbutt.
So let this be the last one, episode 26. This is the last one.
You do need a gimmick though, because I
know
you've tried the silly hair, but that's not working.
I've got to do what I can.
The dodgy lung is too ominous. You can't.
Dodgy lung.
That can't be your thing. You want to get beyond that, and then okay, that's Rob Tebbutt.
Okay, I could just start him like gasping, or like panicking.
You can talk go wheezy guys or something like that. You know? Wheezy, yeah.
Wheezy does it. Anyway, I'm going back to your question. I'm great, mate. Good to see you. Thanks.
Yeah, good. Always good to have you on deck. Thanks very much for that. If anybody does have a gimmick they'd like me to trial for episode 27, please comment in the comments section. Now we've got past all of that. Before we talk about, of course, this weekend's undisputed super middleweight title fight between Canelo-Alvarez and Canelo-Plant, let's just go back to this past weekend. The Dillian White Otto Walling card that never was, of course, headlined by Chantelle Cameron against Mary McGee. Barry, we'll start with you from the top and work our way down. Pretty convincing win for Chantelle Cameron against Mary McGee.
Yeah, it was pretty much a shutout. That was relatively exciting, which is very rare, to be fair. Yep. But I think she boxed well. I think Mary McGee could have boxed better. I think at the early round she was using a jab, like a jab was nice and snappy, and then she stopped doing it that way. It was a weird thing. She was light on her toes, and whether because Chantelle's pressure had stopped that, but yeah, she wanted to trade, and it just never worked out for her. Because Chantelle throws punches. What she does quite clever, Cameron, is she throws in flurries, like she's aggressive and tenacious, but then she'll take a little step back, and that threw McGee every time. She was fighting with her and having a bit of success. As soon as Cameron took a little step back, she was lost. She didn't know what to do. And then once Cameron jumped back on her again, and then she had two or three punches before McGee was able to fire back.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I actually quite like watching Chantelle Cameron. You can tell she really does love a scrap. And there were times in there where I felt like while we were watching the fight where, as you mentioned, just taking that little half step back, keeping the shots nice and straight, was giving her all the success she needed, but she still found herself having a bit of a trade up at times and kind of allowing McGee some success in the fight that she didn't necessarily have to.
100%. I reckon she could have made that a much easier fight than that, but it wouldn't have been as entertaining. And I don't know whether she's not thinking that, but I think it's what you said. She loves to tear up. And I do think, because McGee had spoken a lot in the week about she's just going to run around and just try and pot shot me, I think it got in her head a little bit, Cameron. She was like, no, I'm not having that. I can trade with you, no problem. Because the narrative was kind of McGee's the puncher in the fight, and if they really stand in the pocket and trade, then Cameron would get knocked out, and she just wanted to prove that wasn't the case. Very entertaining fight. Some of it was quite, you sort of looking through your fingers at times, when they were both just head down, swinging wildly at each other. Makes me think she could have some very entertaining fights at the weight below and the weight above. Now, obviously, she's going to unify hopefully first, but then the world's her oyster.
Yeah, I think it's obviously a positive that we ended up seeing a really entertaining fight. I mean, sometimes that's the criticism that's levelled at female boxing is not enough action sometimes. Obviously, we didn't get the knockout or the conclusive finish, but still an entertaining fight.
Yeah, and like I said, even though it was only a clear winner, it was entertaining, and that's very rare. And it's sort of fed up with saying women's boxing, they need this, women's boxing needs that. It's been wrong long enough now to stand on its own merits for criticism and praise. When they're in a bad fight now, we should be able to say that's a bad fight. and things like now. I think they're getting to a stage now where there's enough good quality fighters there. There's a load of rubbish as well, but there's a load of rubbish in men's fights as well, fighters. But there's a load of good. There's a good enough group of women to say, let's judge it on its merits with the males. If it's a good fight, that was a good fight. That was a good fight. If it was two men, that's. I was going to say, that sounds sexist to say. That's the highest compliment I could give it. I don't mean that, but I mean, let's make it irrelevant now whether men or women. That's what I'm trying to say. It gets to a point. I'm not like, full PC or anything, but I just think it's, I'm fed up with going, for women's boxing, this needs this and need that. I think they're there now. Or they're not there. If they're there now, they're never going to be there. That's what I feel.
I do think the two, for the first time, I've always been a massive, should be 3 minute rounds, just like men, should be three. For the first time, I thought that fight, it was so good, and there were such good little pockets of action because it was 2 minute rounds, because they were obviously both thinking, well, we just got to get stuck into this. We can't afford to box away around the first minute and a half and then try and come on strong. It's just like, no, I'm just going to try and win this round from the outset.
You'll get more knockouts in 3 minute rounds.
Well, 100% more. Whether they're knockouts, there'll be some stoppages definitely on
yes.
But I think you get more action. It's a bit like with amateur boxing,
Yeah.
especially with the 4-2s. When women boxing 4-2s, it's like you can't waste any time. And it was the same with men's amateurs when they were 4-2s, or even when you're before your open class as amateur, the pace is like that. And then when you get to 3-3s, you have to box a bit more.
4-2s is that when the 4-2s in the Olympics was possibly the worst Olympics for me. I just thought it was literally just get the guy with the most athletic guy you can get with the longest arms.
100%.
And they got more
and he's
chance
going to land
win.
a few times.
It was only, and that's why Lomachenko stood out in. Was it China?
Yeah, Beijing,
Lomachenko, and there was was he Dominican Republican? Was Felix Diaz or something like that? Was it something?
Yeah, and Crawford boxed him.
Yeah. They stood out because they boxed. Like
Yeah.
they won. And like everyone else, like De Gale might not have won a medal. I mean, he was a fantastic fighter. He might not have won a medal if it was 3-3s.
Yeah.
No, but I think that because he's so athletic, I think this 4-2 suited him just because of his athleticism. It wasn't about boxing skills, and I think that's sometimes with women, 2 minute rounds. It's not about. It's about being who's the most tenacious.
You can't afford to waste a second of it.
But I think the 3 minute rounds will. I know you'll have lulls and stuff like that, but I think overall, it's about boxing is not about the most skillful wins the fight, the biggest puncher wins the fight. It's about wrong management. And there's me. I'm a modern guy now. Wrong management and all that, foot placement. No, it's about that. It's about how you approach each round, and fatigue plays a massive
It's less
part.
of a sprint, isn't it? It's less.
Of course, it is. Yeah. Well, it's a marathon and a sprint.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the sport. That's what makes it so difficult. And I think the women don't have that. It's just a sprint for them. And you get people stand out like Savannah Marshall, who boxes at her own pace because she again, but 2 minute rounds because she's so long, she can do everything and dictate it from her, and doesn't have to rush her work because she's so tall and long for the weight. And the 3 minute rounds, will someone get in? Would someone be able to get close to her?
We're just gonna try and skim through the rest of the card because we're naturally deviated as we always do. You mentioned a few minutes ago about a load of rubbish. Eric Molina was back in a British Boxing Board of Control ring, hopefully for the last time. I mean, what do you say about Eric Molina that hasn't already been said?
Was it 10 days notice he got?
I don't know.
So it wasn't a lot of notice.
No.
But I don't want to defend him or anything like that, but it's like it was similar to the Wardley fight in that he probably had more success against Alan Babbage than anyone else has had. Caught him with a couple of shots. Considering as well, and fair play to him, he got dropped heavy after 5 seconds on his knees. You don't often see people recover from, get up from that to beat a count. And then he was punching, he really landed a couple of times. And Babbage, for the first time really that I've seen him as a professional, had to start using his jab a bit, and he was jabbing and stepping out, coming back. I was like, this is decent. I'm enjoying this. And then basically the same thing happened in the Wardley fight. The first side is the old complain of the rabbit punch. And then he don't want to know then. And I mean, look, I wouldn't want to be in a ring with Alan Babbage, so I'd probably do the same. But I'm not Eric Molina. I'm not. We get told this every time with Molina. He's fought for the world title twice. Look what he did with Wilder. Look, he's done now, isn't he?
Yeah,
he
a long time ago.
He doesn't fancy it anymore.
He's surely got to be done.
That's fair enough. If you don't fancy it anymore, fine. But don't try and peddle him as a suitable opponent in these fights.
And we've seen it now. The Hrgovic fight, he boxed on the Joshua Ruiz 2 undercard, and it was the same for that. Every time Hrgovic landed anything to kind of the top to the side of the head, it was complaints to the ref, and then down on the deck. And somebody actually made a really good point after the fight on Saturday that he was taking better shots than what was dropping him as the fight was going on. The first shot that did catch him after 5 seconds was a good shot, and it caught him flush. But then after that, he was taking a couple of full-blooded shots from Babic. Then a couple of ones that kind of skimmed him and grazed him. He was halfway onto
when
the
he
floor.
thought about it.
But I would say, though, I'm not defending him because he was awful. When you were talking then, I fell asleep. But that can happen, though. Sometimes it's not always the harder shot that knocks you over. I know that from personal experience. I've taken some great shots and gone, and on my feet. And then a shot that I haven't felt, I've been on the floor. But he was against the ropes looking. He was almost going, come on, hit me clean, and I'll fall over. Come on, hit me clean. And then we didn't. Then because Babic is so crude, not even looking at the tag, he's looking at the floor when he swings his arms everywhere. He's gone, I got to throw back then now. I think that's when he had success, when you think, I better throw back.
Well, that's it.
So Molina came. I suppose he thought I can't. He came to lose. I mean, he came to fall over. Without a doubt, he came to fall over, and he looked in pockets like because Babic is so crude and awkward and easy to hit. Then he's had to hit him, and he stunned him a couple of times, but certainly the once. But he was never going to try and win that fight, and he wanted. And if he would have won, it would have been by accident. That's the truth. It would have been. And I think he's a good opponent having your name. Heavyweight, you promote the heavyweight different to any other, but that shouldn't be on the TV segment. That's the biggest issue now. Now we have to pay for everywhere, and we should have more. And we have more say on what goes on TV. I hope, or we have more of a voice to complain, and more platforms to complain like this one. Then I do think then that shouldn't be on TV.
No, I agree.
I'm not saying it's not. It's a good fight for Babic to have, to build up his experience.
Is it anymore, though?
But we shouldn't have. Well,
do you think so?
Well, what are you going to do with Babic? Where'd you go? See, with Babic. See, like, we talk Johnny Fisher. With Johnny Fisher, I know you're going to talk about, but Johnny Fisher, like, you build him like a 90s heavyweight. He's not going to have 25 fights before he fights anyone, but you build him because he's got potential, possibly. Time will tell. And not just the tickets, just potential because of his size, and I think he got decent skills. But Babic hasn't got that. He's a fun fighter, so you have to. So you're gonna match him differently with fights that are going to be fun, fights he's going to win, but ultimately he's going to step up. And and who knows? I can't. You're always trying to sell the narrative that he's so impossible to deter, but he hasn't boxed anyone. No, they're not talking about Dave Allen. That's another fight that's going to be Maybe Dave Allen a few years ago would maybe toy with him, possibly. Because what happens when he gets there by a proper heavyweight and knows how to just take a little step back?
He might go over.
He might.
But then a lot of heavyweights do.
Yeah.
So I think I'm a shameless Alan Babic fan. In that,
me
you know
too,
what you're saying about the TV.
Yeah.
You know what you're saying about the TV. I totally agree with you. But when I was watching that card, and I'm the same as everyone else, and you shouldn't admit this really as a this is what casuals say, but you're excited to watch Alan Babic.
Yeah, for sure.
100%. And especially if you gamble, you're excited to watch Alan Babic.
What I'm saying,
there's money to be made.
You could put him in with a guy who's not very good, but will come to win.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you what, Niall Kennedy came to win, and it was and he got knocked out in the end, and he got stopped.
And what's the other kid?
Mark Bennett.
Mark Bennett. Who else was it? Who else did he box?
Tom Little.
Tom Little.
Tom Little.
Tom Little came in at 12 and a half stone.
think, look,
they had a little pop, and none of those fighters are great, nothing like that. But the thing is, they had a go. So you don't mind that.
Yeah.
Because again, with Babic, I think because he's still, he's not even a heavyweight really, is he? So and he's fun to watch, and you put him on first fight. That's what I would do. But against someone like Molina, that's just a waste of time. And when you made that match, you know exactly where you're getting.
Yeah, of course, yeah. That's
the difference. It's not like, he didn't turn up today. He haven't turned up since Wilder. No, that's the truth of it. He's been awful, like awful rubbish.
I did feel like, because in the Fabio Wardley fight, I mean, I think part of that was Fabio Wardley kind of allowed him to be comfortable in the fight, certainly in those early rounds. He kind of was able to old man Fabio Wardley at certain parts of it and kind of show the inexperience levels of Fabio Wardley. But he just didn't really seem...
And he seemed to swallow it.
Yeah, he just really... Well, he did in that fight, and then obviously he did against Babic, but there wasn't even really part of that early... I guess there wasn't really much time and got knocked down in the first 5 seconds, but he didn't really seem like he came to give Babic any kind of test, like he really kind of looked like he did in those early rounds against Wardley.
I think maybe it's because of Babic's style, though. And that's the interesting thing, is because, yeah, he'll get stepped up. And like you say, eventually there'll be someone who hits him hard and he goes over. But he's never going to give anyone time to settle. Anyone. Put him in with anyone. And this, I rate him for...
That's wrong, but go on.
I rate him for doing heavyweight. I rate him for doing heavyweight because he could be a cruiserweight.
Yes.
But I think that...
Well, because it
He's
puts an
gonna
extra
steam
naught,
in.
it puts an extra 0 on your purse. That's why if you were a heavyweight.
Yeah, but
automatically.
he's going to steam in to everyone.
Oh yes,
Doesn't matter who it is.
No, but
and I'm not saying he'll have success against everyone, but he's going to steam into everyone, no matter who it is. And in the end, someone's going to chin him.
Well, what's going to happen is, I know you. I do understand what you're saying. No, he won't give anyone time to settle.
No.
But someone with a really good, solid jab, like Joshua.
Yeah.
Hargovic is the fight that he's been calling for.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Once he gets it with a solid time jab and it goes bam.
Yeah.
He doesn't walk forward then.
No, of course.
I mean, he
yeah.
does come back again because I think he's that way inclined. But I mean, that stops you in the track, and then you got to start thinking. And because he doesn't use his brain, he'll gas out. Usyk again. I haven't talked about him since I was here last time. But Usyk does it. He makes you think more than you want to, and that tires you out. And so once you get hit with a big shot, you have to think of what you're doing. And at the moment, Babbage is not. He's on autopilot.
Yeah.
He just trains hard, and I enjoy him, by the way.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about they're promoting him like a prospect. So let's treat him like a prospect. No, he does. He needs to hone more of his skills and needs to start using his brain more and start moving around the target when he's getting in close. Because once he gets to a level with a guy with a solid jab, he won't get past it.
Tell you, Dave Allen's got a solid jab, and I think even who knows what Dave Allen is like now. He's not the Dave Allen of old. Solid jab, cute defensively. If it's a fit and healthy Dave Allen, it's a good fight. It's a good fight. And I think he offers far more than Eric Molina did at the weekend.
He does, but he does. Of course he does. Yeah, he'll have a go. I'm sure he will. I'm not sure I want to see Dave Allen fight again. That's the truth of it. I don't want to slag him off. I don't know him. I'm not slagging him off personally, but I think he's had a hard career for a young man, and what's for what? For a few quid, he's not going to earn fortunes. He might earn some decent money, but it's not going to be fortunes. I don't see what the risk and reward is for him. Like I just, how do I know? I don't live his life. I don't know what he needs to live his life and be happy and all the rest of it. But it's what the cost is after for him. That's my worry. And I think that would be a war.
Yeah.
For however long it lasts, it would be a war. Do I want to see Dave Allen in another war? I don't know. And even Dave Allen at his best. How good was he? Let's be honest, he was good. He was good to watch, and he had a bit. He got lovely skills actually, but too small to be a heavyweight. Another one who's too small to be a heavyweight. He's a bridgerweight. Though I hate that weight division. Everyone's bridgerweight. They all get tattoos saying "idiot" on their forehead. But he wasn't big enough to be a heavyweight. And that was always against him. But against Babbage, he'd find someone his size, and it would be good. It would be entertaining to watch. But it's one of those ones where, we become the problem watcher now.
Yeah, it's true.
No, that's the truth. There you go. Like that.
Very profound from you, that.
Yeah,
Barry.
no, I don't want to slag. I don't want to be like I'm like.
I agree.
giving Dave Allen a hard
I
time, you know
agree
I
with what you've said.
I know he's your mate,
But no, well, we had.
and he'll put me in his pocket as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, good luck bumping into him. But no, we had Dave. Obviously, Dave does the podcast with us, and kind of as and when we can get him on. And we did a podcast with Michael Watson shortly after David announced his retirement, and there was some stories shared between them that go back and watch. I think it was episode 5 or something. And yeah, I think there's enough alarm bells in that interview to make me inclined to agree with you, Mr. Jones. But anyway, staying with the heavyweights, we mentioned him briefly earlier. Johnny Fisher, selling tickets and knocking out Spaniards and what have you. Yeah. What did you make of Johnny Fisher? Still very young, very raw, but there's still a lot to like about him.
I'm not surprised he's selling tickets because what a salt of the earth fella. And you look at the big ticket sellers in Britain over the last 20 years. Ricky Hatton and Josh Warrington, basically, two down to earth, humble guys that everyone has got a story about them. Everyone knows him personally, knows a family member, knows this, knows that, and you can see that he's harnessed that. And that on its own is enough to keep you relevant. And the fact is, he can fight as well. He's a big fella. He sounds like he's coachable. When you listen to the Tibbs is there, he listens to what he's being told and he goes and does it. And that's a good win.
I like the way the Tibbs train. I don't know why they haven't trained heavyweights all the time, actually, because I think the way they train is very old-fashioned. And it's similar to Shane McGuigan, actually. I think I don't know how they train exactly, but it feels like that's the way. They like to keep their shape. So they like to keep their shoulders square. And so that's why I think Coley's good with Shane McGuigan. And I think Mark Tibbs and obviously Jimmy Tibbs, I think they should have been experts in training heavyweights because they like it. Hands high, elbows tucked in tight, shoulders square, turn direct. And that's all you need as a heavyweight. If you can throw a 1-2 left hook as a heavyweight, you're world class. That's the truth. If you can throw if you can then do fast and solid and safe when you do it, you're almost world class. Let's be honest, and that's all you need because you're big guys. The basics are so important. You've seen all the best heavyweights except for Tyson Fury just did the basics brilliantly. That's the truth of it, isn't it? Let's be honest. And I think with him being with them, you'll do that. You'll be high. They'll be hands high. You'll make sure you'll get the rotation on the right hand. There'll be straight shots more than anything else. It won't be all this flash stuff too much. It'll be more of that. And you've got your own style, so you're going to do your own thing, and you find your own little like magic to that. But they'll give him a real good basis to move forward. So I'm quite excited about him.
Same.
Those tickets that he sold, I think, depend on what you listen to. 1,200, 1,400 tickets. I think it got more and more the longer the week went on. That help or a hindrance at this stage of his career? He's got to help him, I would think.
It helps.
Certainly helps him get on cars, but with regards to matching him.
Not matching him. Well, for the promoter, because you got to pay more money with the matches. But I mean, there's always a worry. I say that about debutants. That it's a worry that even though you've been a good amateur, maybe or most of the time, and you've had loads of success and you've learnt loads, but being a professional it's almost like starting again. You sell tickets, and sometimes the over eagerness. So the more tickets you sell, the bigger the noise of the crowd, the more you want to impress, and you end up being in sometimes of a scrappy fight. Also, I say about keeping your composure and your shape, and taking your time, and just remember doing the basic things sometimes, so you warm into the fight. And yeah, so I think he's by the looks of it, he's used to having a crowd, and once you're used to having a crowd, no, I don't think it won't affect him now. But I think for the matchmaker, except for having to pay a few more quid, it's great, isn't it? You can put him on anywhere in the bill. That's the truth of it. I've got to say, I like to defer a little bit. There was on Friday night in the York Hall, a young kid at his debut called Joe Giles from Essex, ironically, and he sold. I think he pretty much sold the York Hall by himself. So he was a floater. Now, if anyone don't know what a floater is, it's you have an opponent who don't have a slot on the bill, so you just hang around hoping it's an early stoppage so you can fit in somewhere. So you can be, with a bit of luck, you can be on just before the main fight, or you're on last. But they've put him on last on purpose because to keep the crowd there. Yeah. And they all stayed, and it was the loudest the York Hall was on the last fight of the night. After the 2 10-rounders we had, which were decent fights, one of them was a really good fight. And he sold so many tickets. And I remember saying on the night on commentary, any promoter in the country, in the world, would want him, regardless how good he is. And he's not a bad kid, because he sells so many tickets. And the same and him and Johnny Fisher together, unless they all live too close together, they don't need anyone else on the bill. Because a lot of people can't sell tickets. Joe Kazagi couldn't sell a ticket. He was TV. He was and Warren knew that. He was always going to be the TV star. So in the end, it is irrelevant in the end, because you're going to be the star and stadium fights will come. But building up, he couldn't sell a ticket. So they put me on after him once, because I could sell tickets. And he couldn't sell any. He was just because he lived in a small little town. He didn't know anyone, and that's how it is. So I tell people how important it is to sell tickets and that personal touch that Warrington had. You have to go to pubs. Social media is great, but you have to go to pubs. Can leave 10 tickets on a poster. Go to barbers. Yes, I used to have hair, and 10 tickets on a poster. Post office, news agents, butchers, everywhere, around your area. And then you go back, and then most of them don't sell any tickets, and pubs sell more than anything else, when pubs used to exist. And then you say thank you. If they don't sell a ticket, you say thank you. That's the most important bit, because the next time you leave a poster and tickets there, they'll buy one and not even turn up. But that starts the ball rolling, and you keep doing that over your career. And in the end, like I did, you sell a lot of tickets. And like Josh Warren did, went crazy. He's probably the biggest one for doing it as a personal touch still. And that's and Johnny Fisher, they because they feel a connection with you. They're there with you. They're your mates. They're not your fans. They're your mates. That's the difference. And then they're your mates, and they all feel a part. It's a movement. It's a movement. It's a cult.
Yeah. Whatever the number was, you said that it seemed to go up and up. whatever the number actually was, you could add another 200-300 for the next fight.
Yeah, definitely.
And then it would be another two, because people hear about it. People see their mates on Instagram and go, oh, I want a bit of that next time. You're like, oh, I know Johnny Fisher. He's got people in Exeter unit. Before you know it, like you say, it's just like this and this and it never stops. And even if he loses,
as long as you don't get too big.
yeah.
If people go, Johnny, and he goes, oh yeah, that means everything.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I think he will.
Yeah, he seems like that type of guy. Yeah.
He seems like a proper nice bloke. And Josh Warrington is the same, and Ricky Hatton is the same. It's not false. That's just how they are. And in the end, people respond to that.
The only difference will be between him and most others. I don't think he's attached to a football club. I know, like I was attached to Cardiff City,
point, yeah.
and my brother was a football.
No, he's not.
Supporter, and then and obviously Warrington with Leeds and all that. So and other fighters do it after.
Ricky Hatton, big Man City.
Man City, but other fighters tried to do it, but they done it too late in their career, and then they don't. The fans don't buy into it because I've never seen it on the Cardiff City ever in your life. Joe tried it once he boxed Hopkins. It was too late by that point. Better off being a Swansea fan, but no, it's true in it. But like I think Johnny Fisher and that Joe Giles, there's no football element there, and which is like crazy. That they sell that many tickets just out of that personal touch.
Just from his dad's TikTok following.
Exactly. He said he did 30. He said he did 30 tickets on the day.
Yeah.
I always
He
think
said he could have done 100 tickets.
He's counting them as well, like that. It just says it all.
Well, his dad was kind of spearheading the tickets and the ticket sales and stuff like that. He had I think he had a TikTok video that did 1 million views or something of him eating a Chinese because he's a sizable chap.
Oh, so everything I said was a load of rubbish then, because he's using social media to sell tickets.
Well, I don't know if this necessarily. I don't know how many of those million viewers.
He's rubbish, like Johnny Fisher. I wouldn't watch him.
I mean, I'm guessing I already know the answer to this. I'm going to ask it anyway. But too early to be discussing, what next for Johnny Fisher. He needs to kind of really get some rounds under his belt, and just time in the ring at this point of his career is the most important.
100%. And the thing is, there are a lot. Because people don't expect too much of him. And I think people expect quite a lot of Babbage. And like you said, he is really a prospect. But people expect, who's he going to fight? You need someone to do this and do that. With Fisher, there's none of that. It's just like, there's so many heavyweights that we've seen over here in the past that have boxed Chisora and then gone on to box Joshua and all that. Like, there's so many of them knocking about. And there's also quite clear levels to them. I don't think we need to talk about that at all. How old is he? What is he?
Young, yeah.
Mid-20s or something?
Difference with Babbage.
He's younger than that.
Yeah.
Difference with Babbage. Babbage is selling an image of this savage.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So, and he's great. He's a great interview.
Yeah. And there's none of that with Fisher.
Ultimately, heavyweights don't really need to do that. I think more now than ever before, but they don't need to do that because heavyweights sell anyway. And and it's very rare now that people use that nice guy image. Steve Robinson had it. He's like the boy next door in Cardiff. The boy next door, and we loved him. And he used to sell out the ice rink in Cardiff. Every time he boxed, he was packed. Tickets were gone like that, straight away. But he was a quiet man. He wouldn't say boo to a goose. I mean, he was a tough man, but he couldn't sell a ticket, really. For all his career, couldn't sell a ticket. When he won the world title, his world blew up. But he's still the same Steve Robinson that everyone knew from a kid. And that's why everyone loved him. So certain areas fall in love with that. Other areas, not so much. But once you start having a persona, like Babbage has, then that's polarising. But with Johnny Fisher, he's not looking for that. He's not going for that angle.
No, and I think Eddie Hearn said it right in his interview after. He said, we're going to have a lot of fun with him over the next few years. And I think it doesn't really matter where he gets to, what level he gets to, because he will. With all those fans there, and whether he ends up boxing for British titles or whatever it might be, it doesn't really matter, because the fans that are going to be there are going to be connected to the whole thing. Who knows? He might go further than that. Who knows? He's doing everything right now, though.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think you promote him like you do the 90s heavyweight, and just feed him as many, like not too easy fights, but learning fights as possible. Get him out there, get him used to the cameras and the lights and the interviews, and just do that. The problem with social media is there's loads of criticism straight away. I'm contradicting myself here because it's not good enough. I don't want to do that for Babbage, but I want it for Johnny Fisher. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I do feel they're different. No, what you said there.
Yeah, but Babbage is selling himself in a different light. So
Exactly.
he's putting himself out there, but Johnny's not. If he just stays like he is, I'm just learning my trade. I'm dedicated to my craft, all that crap. I mean, all that good stuff. And no, but it's true. And then he gets a chance to learn and develop. And then I kind of think for the heavyweight, you learn and develop, and then when you get there, you're ready. That's the eagerness now to push a fighter too soon. It will ruin careers. That's the worry. And some fighters it suits, some others it kills them. It kills their career. That's it stops it before it even gets any sort of momentum, which is another new popular word that I like to use. Momentum.
Johnny Fisher versus Eric Molina at some point. It's
Well,
bound to
it's a great
happen.
learning fight. It's a great learning fight.
It's bound to happen at some point. Okay, and moving on to the rest of the card. Craig Richards returned. What are you laughing at, Dick?
I love Craig Richards.
Yeah, you
I
do
was
love
looking
Craig
forward
Richards.
to this bit.
Yeah, we've done it twice, but anyway. Craig Richards.
I don't like him. You talk about him. I'm into it.
Craig Richards made his return after, giving a really good account of himself against Dimitri Bivol. A lot of people, myself included, expect that to be quite a one-sided fight. It wasn't. He gave a very good account of himself and then got the stoppage in the end, albeit after a probably slightly circumspect start at the weekend.
Yeah, it was. He didn't have it all his own way, and I thought he would. And then, but he pulled the stoppage out. It wasn't like he was behind or in any real trouble. But yeah, I love Craig Richards. I've written him off a few times. I fancied Shakan Pitters in that fight, for instance, and he won that in style. I think if you look at his record, what is he, like 17-2 or something like that, with a draw in there as well. He's one of those guys where he's sort of done it the hard way. And I was thinking about this. I was thinking about Craig Richards. He's always been with Matchroom. Has had this long sort of association with Matchroom. So it's actually hard, or it's probably incorrect to say that he's underappreciated or underrated or anything like that, because he's kind of not, because he's always sort of had the platform. But it feels like he's had to do everything kind of the hard way.
He's been with the right people with the platform, but he hasn't really had the.
No.
He hasn't been pushed in.
So that Bullioni fight on short
That was
notice.
and I really rated him for that, and he did all right. It was a Joshua card or something. It was in Cardiff, I think.
Yeah, it was.
I remember
Yeah.
it. But
He took up 9 days notice.
yeah.
Like that.
But I think the things with that division, I seem to moan about the division a lot because there's so many good fights you want to see in there. So many, even just in Britain.
Yeah.
And they sort of don't happen. We've seen a couple of them, but I would love to see him against.
And
Callum
most of
Johnson.
them are begging for fights, by the way.
This is the thing that annoys me.
Not if they all got that all our past us. They're all like we're all already know where we're going. No, like Callum Johnson just hanging around, isn't he?
Yeah.
Bless him, like begging for work. Like, please can I fight?
Yeah. There's more. There's Buatsi. I mean, you only have to listen to the interview after. There's Buatsi. There's even in the stable, Callum Smith. There's so many great fights for Craig Richards, but that was one of those ones where he's expected to win, and he's won tidily. And fair play to him. But now I just want to. There's so many fights, and the thing is with Richards.
So Jose Burton Dan Aziz
look at that.
is coming up now, isn't it?
Straight away.
Soon. And
Yeah.
there's loads. Whatever level you're looking at.
He's in that division where I'd like. And you say, look at him against Bivol. He didn't. There was no disgrace there, no shame in losing. He was great. He did a really good account of himself. I'd see him against any of them. And he's such a good fella, and you can tell he's got fans and his family behind him. Fair play to him. I just want to see him in one of those.
Does he
big
beat
fights.
any of them though?
I don't know, and that I don't know because
Because you're obviously in love with him. So
the jury's still out on.
To ask.
The thing is, the jury's still out on. For me, the jury's still out on people like Buatsi. I think because I was really hot on Buatsi because I thought out of everyone he would be the one that emerged, and he might still, but he's had a few little hiccups there. And someone like Craig Richards is the sort of person who would at least really push him and really could beat him. Callum Johnson could he handle the power? Handle Bivol's power? There's so there's
Callum
you can make a
Johnson's
case for all of them.
easier to hit now than he's ever been.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can hurt him, but I mean this shit. Well, you can.
He was
be a
hurt
great
by
fight.
Emil Markic.
There
But,
you go.
but you can see Callum Johnson now at this stage now. Maybe he needs to be more active because he's not as active enough to be outboxed. If you're willing to sort of like box like I did, run away and just do enough for every round and not care about what people think about you, and not look to try and stop him, you could maybe because he's not active enough to get that ring generalship back. It's a struggle. You need to be fighting all the time to get used to your placement in the ring.
I think after he'd boxed Emil Markic, I think he'd boxed 10 rounds or less than 10 rounds in 5 years.
Yeah, it's
Callum
crazy.
Johnson.
I box more regular than Callum Johnson. I had my last fight 21 years ago.
But there's you even saw it in the Jake Bull fight. He can box a bit, but when he needs to, he can punch and he can finish people. I think he's a real player in there. I'm not sure if he's the best in Britain, like they sort of claim. Like whoever wins is therefore the best in Britain. I wouldn't claim that, but I think he's in the mix, and I think he's in good fights every time.
The problem that I think we've got domestically, 175 pounds, and I know obviously Callum Smith is now 175 pounds, but coming off the back of his career at 168, it's probably maybe slightly harsh on to kind of band him in with the rest of those guys, I think. But those other guys, your Boatzis, your Callum Johnsons, your Craig Richards, people like that, you kind of saw it in the post-fight interview at the weekend where you had Eddie talking about, he wants a world title, but if not, then maybe we'll have to fight these domestic fights. And what I thought was great was Peter Sims was on the camera and he was like, well, maybe it's Joshua Boatsi, and he was going, no. He's like, or maybe it's Joe Smith, and he was going,
yeah.
So you've got all of those guys and everybody's looking up. Like the winner of Yard versus Arthur 2 is not going to be going, oh, well, I'll have another domestic fight after that. They all want a world title fight. So everybody, it's almost going to take somebody to go up, kind of like what Craig Richards did, go up, lose a world title fight, come back down and then fight somebody else. But it doesn't look like we're very close to any of those domestic fights happening at light heavyweight.
It's because these organisations give you ratings based on you winning. I'm a product of it, so but winning intercontinental international titles and then getting a rating way above you. And winning one of those international, intercontinental, European, global, whatever they're called, winning one of those titles should elevate you a little bit further up, but not to number 3 in the world. Like what the fuck? Come on, like. In number 3, obviously, you beat like a relatively not a decent fighter, but not a great fighter, and you get number 3. And you look at the names below you, and you go, "Oh, I'm not fighting any of those. They're too good." But I'll fight for the world title because it doesn't matter. It's a world title. But it's like, so domestically, no. Well, again, you understand it. Why would they want to fight there? I'll win the world title, then I'll fight them. And I understand. No, why I would think the same way. But the sport shouldn't be like that. They should have to fight each other really to get the chance. Like Yard did okay against Kovalev, but he lost convincingly. He had a great round and he was trying to be competitive in all the rounds, but he lost convincingly, and that's just a fact. And now we're talking straight away that he's world class now straight away. Callum Johnson, he hurt Beterbiev, and he did great, but he lost convincingly. These are just facts. I'm not saying that, these are just facts. Lost convincingly. If anything, Richards have had been closer to win the world title than them two, and we don't even put him anywhere near them two. If we were rating who was the best. So why should they automatically get a world title shot? Because one as if like except for that one round, Yard was never in the races, except for Callum Johnson knocking Beterbiev down, he was never really in the races. So why should they get world title fights? They should go back down and stay here for a while until they fight someone who's because Yard beating Arthur. Why is that? How can that be eliminated for a world title? Because Arthur's a good fighter. But what has he shown at any decent world level how good he is? Yeah. He might be the next best thing, I don't know. But I mean, he hasn't proved that yet. And by beating Yard doesn't prove that. Beating Yard again still doesn't prove that. Because Yard hasn't, except for one round, hasn't done anything at world level. That's just I think facts.
Eddie was alluding to that though, wasn't he, in that interview where he's basically saying everyone wants a world title. Thing is, it seems there is a reticence to chuck them in together. And who would you rather see Callum Smith fight? Lenin Castillo or Craig Richards, for instance?
Oh, Craig Richards.
Every time. Yeah. As a boxing fan, British boxing fan, every time I'd rather see that. But
I think you don't want to lose against a British guy, that's the problem.
No. And it's probably more expensive, isn't it? It's more expensive to put those two together than get someone like Lenin Castillo over.
But also it's a more marketable fight that will bring in a bigger audience, you would feel.
Yeah.
Maybe. That it certainly would for me.
Yeah.
I'd be more interested in watching. I didn't care about Callum Smith boxing Castillo, to be honest. It was a decent little fight on paper, but it wasn't like poof. But then, if he's boxing Callum Johnson, you go, ooh, stablemates, are they still ex-stablemates now? Ex-stablemates. Yeah, and also, Johnson can bang. It's his first fight at light heavyweight. Callum Smith obviously got all the pedigree, but so Johnson as an amateur as well, and he looked good. So it's a good fight, isn't it? And that's a fight that I'd be more interested in watching than any other, possibly.
100%.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, moving on to this weekend. Obviously, we've just spoke about this last weekend. Canelo Alvarez versus Canelo-Plant. All the marbles at super middleweight. Barry, we've discussed this a few weeks ago. So, Dec, we're going to come to you first. Giving Canelo-Plant much chance, any chance of pulling the upset and defeating Canelo Alvarez?
No, probably less than Billy Joe Saunders for me. I think based on what he did to Saunders as well. Similar boxers, Plant and Saunders in the way that they operate, not massive punchers, slick and whatever else. If before the Saunders fight you'd asked me who's had a better chance of winning, I would have always said Saunders. I think Canelo is just this. There's no disrespect to Caleb Plant. It's just Canelo is excellent, isn't he? I don't see how he loses this fight. I think he's on a roll. Momentum is all with him. He's got the tools to win. It's not like the jury's out on how he boxes, how he deals with boxers anymore or whatever, like, the Lara thing that came up before the Saunders fight. I feel like it's been a bit of a masterclass in how to promote yourself into making people think you've got a chance, because all of that stuff at the presser, you watch it and you think, oh, this is an even fight. It's not an even fight for me at all. And I think that all of that stuff, the histrionics and the pushing and the little melee and him trying to really get under Canelo's skin, I think it's not a close enough fight for that to have any effect whatsoever on the fight. If anything, I think it's going to fire up Canelo even more.
Yeah, he didn't look very happy
fuming,
at the press conference.
No,
yeah.
He's fuming, and that whole thing, probably can't swear, but call him an MFer, and he doesn't quite seem to know
What's an MFer? MFer.
He thinks
Is that an EMFer?
Just behave yourself.
is
you
that
can't
M-
take getting
M-
demonetized.
Yeah, we
on
don't
any
wanna
more
demonetise this.
Barry Jones
Is that
videos.
MFer?
especially with his fee.
Oh,
Can't get demonetised for this. But Canelo genuinely thinks it's a literal term, so he's fuming.
Although he didn't think it was a literal term when he said
but
it
he
to
probably
Demetrius
did.
Andrade.
Maybe he did.
Maybe he did. Yeah, maybe he did.
Great, but all I say, I love nasty Canelo.
Oh, I love English speaking Canelo.
Yeah,
it's
quality.
brilliant. He's got the best English speaking accent that's going. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I know when Plant did that, you just kept thinking, why would you poke the
Yeah,
bear?
why
Yeah,
would you do that?
what
would
are you doing?
Like, if anything, befriend him. Befriend
Yeah.
him. Sal, my friend. Sal, come here. Come here, mate. I got some cake for you. After the weigh-in. Coffee after the
I
weigh-in.
totally agree. I think that it's the wrong thing to do. And it's sometimes the right thing to do. He's done it wrong.
But you can understand that while Plant's full of confidence.
Yeah.
He's a world champion. He's boxed well. He looks good. He got a good style, fast hands. He's tricky. He's awkward. Billy Joe. But I was talking yesterday about Canelo, and I said, like, the evolution of that kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable.
It's just something else. And I've been saying for a long time, he takes lessons, whether he's won or lost, like Canelo, he took more lessons from the loss. The Floyd Mayweather fight was the most important fight of his career, as it goes. That's where the evolution started, right there. And because he could get buzzed before that fight, by the way. But
There's a Cotto one, wasn't it? When he
Yeah.
got really bad.
Yeah, Cotto's brother, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. And but from that fight on, he's taken lessons from every fight and took him to the next one and made him better. He's like he take your strengths off you. It's like a top trump, isn't he? Take
Exactly.
you and take you, and then he'd have yours and he'd move on to the next one. But he hasn't done that for the last few fights. He hasn't taken any lessons from the last 3 or 4 fights, possibly 2 or 3 fights, definitely, and took him into the next one. Because he didn't have to.
No.
He's there. I think I said to him, like, he's completed boxing. He's done it. Like, he's the master of it now. He's done it all, and he's no more lessons for him to learn.
And even when you look back at, people will always talk about the Arislandi Lara fight, obviously a long time ago. He's boxed tricky, awkward guys since then.
But he's
Austin
won it.
Trout.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a close fight. But anyway, it's kind of like several versions of Canelo ago.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like he's now, like, one of the criticisms always been of Canelo, which we saw in particularly the Lara fight, less so in the Mayweather fight, but at times, is his inability to cut the ring off at times. And even in the Amir Khan fight, he kind of, followed Khan, but obviously a different type of fight. I think he kind of felt like everybody.
Didn't he too?
Yeah, he kind of knew that once he got into range and once he landed a shot, what happened was going to happen. But I feel like in the Saunders fight, he was pretty much on Saunders from the first round. He came out, he cut the ring off, and he was actually able to get his feet in position to land his shots and make Billy Joe Saunders work quicker than he potentially would have years and years ago. So he has, in my opinion, he's become kind of, I don't really see the weaknesses in him now.
No, what you can look. Sometimes he gets caught, but he doesn't care.
No, he's okay
like
with
with
it.
Saunders, he almost makes you look like they're in the fight. Like Saunders, he's doing quite well. He's doing well here, Billy, isn't he? He's doing well. He maybe win that, right? Maybe might have won that round. There was never 1 minute, 1 second that you thought he was going to win the fight, though. That's the difference. You almost feel, even though you don't know what Canelo's doing, you sort of feel like he's letting you do what you want. Not like Usyk, I mentioned him. Have I mentioned him already today? But, so he makes you work hard with the feet.
Yeah.
It's a similar sort of thing. They don't want you keep carry on doing all that because what you're doing, it's not really making an effect. But I'm just testing you, prodding you, and then whack.
I felt like we saw that in the Kovalev fight. The Kovalev fight actually had Kovalev ahead at the time of the stoppage. But again, for some reason, I still felt like he was going to get to him eventually. Yeah,
I'm the same. When you
like
think
10,
back to
11
that fight,
rounds in, you're thinking, no worries, he's going to chin him in a second. He's got 4.5 minutes to do it. But I think Canelo's just kind of mastered the art of being a 12-round fighter now. He knows how long he's got to get you. Even the Callum Smith fight, obviously didn't get the stoppage in that, but what you like to talk about, getting that front foot in between and making him work without really doing much. And obviously Canelo's got really good upper body movement and kind of he's kind of on you before you know it. I mean, he's out jabbing Callum Smith in that fight, which was...
Sorry to interrupt you. That was it, really. But no, it was... But he learned that from the Lara fight, because the Lara had a really fast start, buzzed him a little bit, had a really fast start, and then in the second half of the fight, he put so much concentrated pressure on Lara, worked the body, and Lara ran for the second half of the fight. And that's where he lost the fight. It was close. It was close because Lara had a really good start. But he learned, and no one really saw it at the time, but he did what great fighters can do. He changed the pattern of the fight mid-fight. Yeah. And it's hard to do that as a 6th rounder at a high level. It's very, very impossible. It's almost impossible. Only great fighters do it. Kazak did against Kessler. Some fighters can have done it in the past, of course, as well. Listen, I can't go into the names. I can't think of any. But that's a sign of a great fighter, and he did it in that fight. And we forget. And so again, that's another key moment where he almost lost, but he found a way to change the pattern, to give him the run to the end of the fight, to give him the run. That for me, got him over the line. Just maybe, but just. And now he's learned to pace himself better. He knows there's no panic. Even the Golovkin fight, he learned from, I thought he lost both, actually, to be fair. But I thought he clearly lost, not clearly, but he definitely lost the first fight for me. But he learned 2 things in that first fight against Golovkin. 2 things that no one's ever done and still can't do against Golovkin. Take his best shot and push him back.
Yeah.
Who would even dream of trying to think about doing that?
Yeah.
But he realised in the first fight, you hurt me, but you didn't knock me out, though, and I can walk you down, and I can push you back. And Golovkin boxed well in the second fight, not actually using the jab. But he realised that my combination punching will be too much if he, with his more heavier single shots. And he learned that from the first one. So in a fight like that of that magnitude, why would you even risk about changing your tact? The risk of not boxing your natural, what you can just do best against just a dangerous fighter and think, I need to walk you down. No, I know I can do that. He has such a supreme confidence in his whole ability to do pretty much anything. All he can't do is fancy Dan. That's all he can't do. That's all he can't do. He just can't fancy. He can't dance someone like a Ray Leonard or something like that. That's all he can't do. Everything else, he's probably the best at.
I just can't see what Plant can do, or what anyone can do really at 168 pounds to beat him. How'd you go about beating him? Because Golovkin had to be fair, like you said, Golovkin probably did beat him in the first fight, because it's just someone who can put that sustained pressure on him and try and pin him down and hit him hard and often.
And also be able to take the shots that are coming back. He took that right hand
that
everybody kind of refers back to.
I don't think Plant can do that. And it'll be the similar situation with Saunders, where he will catch him a bit, but he'll be like, so what? It's almost like he'll wear one because he knows that it's just part of the process of breaking him down.
I think Plant gets knocked out, and because his speed and athleticism masks some of his frailties, because he jumps in because he's got such fast feet and fast hands. He jumps from way far out and catches you with hooks or right hands. That won't work against Canelo, because when he misses, then he dips over to the right.
Tried that at the press conference.
It didn't work. Well done.
It's like a microcosm of the fight, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of was, though, wasn't it?
But he throws and then dips over straight away. But that won't work against Canelo, because Canelo won't cover up and panic, or you'll see it. As soon as you move, you'll see it, and he'll just sit down or take a little lean back, and he's looking to come back, and he'll catch him. He'll catch Plant off his feet. He'll catch him off his feet, and then he'll knock him out like that. I wouldn't be shocked if Plant dives in with a left hook and he catches him with a left hook on an uppercut as he walks, and as he's coming forward, he just continues to go forward and flat on his face like that.
One of them.
Yeah.
You can't get a much more succinct prediction than that.
Yeah, that's
the shot.
I'm not saying it's going
to trajectory.
Which way he's going to fall, everything.
I did the other.
It could be early then. It could be at any point.
Any point, yeah. But the thing with Canelo, he warms into it, so he doesn't panic.
Yeah, that's
so. I think he
like the Saunders fight. There's no panic.
No,
because he knows. Well, a bit like Kovalev as well. he knows that he's going to get that opening.
And Plant's going to be his most concentrated and the sharpest
Yeah.
early. So those jumping in are going to be really the fast twitch fibre is going to be really working really good for him. But as fatigue sets in, round 5, round 6, it doesn't look slow to us watching it. But when you're in there in front of him, there's a little tell because you've got to generate that movement. So there's a little tell, and you'll see that. I'm judging. I don't know how he thinks actually. I'm just trying to think. If I was in that place and I had his intelligence, I think that's probably what it is. You see a little tell. And I think about Canelo. I know I'm got the ability and the intelligence of a Canelo, but I think it's like sparring against someone who can't fight, or against someone who's not as good as you. And you see everything, every move. They're good at their level, but they're nowhere near your level, whatever your level is. So you see everything they do before they do it, because they do a little tell, a little movement, and you just play with them. So easy, play with them. He does that at the highest level. That's what I feel. He does that at the highest level.
How much of a factor do you think experience is going to be in this fight? Obviously, we've seen Canelo box Floyd Mayweather, Miguel Cotto, Gennady Golovkin twice, Kovalev, Jacobs. It goes on and on and on. Whereas Caleb...
mentioned Jacobs. No one mentions Jacobs anymore. That's how good his
And
resume
you know
is.
what? If you look, I saw a little clip from that fight, and you said you can't do the fancy
Oh, yeah,
dance
he does a little
It's
bit.
not fancy
in there.
Dan, but some of the defensive
defensive moves, and he
you
is.
don't think about Canelo like that, and to do it against Jacob, often you see the Lomachenko clips come out, and some of it's against like Walters and people like that who are not, you're quite crude in their attack. So he obviously he's going to see it coming. But someone like Jacobs, really, really good, skilled boxer, and he was chasing shadows.
This what he does with his head.
Yeah, that one.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I
learned that
remember
from
he
me.
did Austin Trout as well. He had similar success against defensive success.
But he
against
fires
Austin
off
Trout.
that.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
uppercut, doesn't he?
And I think that was a sort of undoing of Saunders, wasn't it?
Someone leaked a video of me sparring in about 2004. I'm not saying that was where he got it from, but it's very,
I think it's a good
very
shot.
similar. Because at the time then, he was 11. So
Was that Barry Jones TV?
So
He was a subscriber.
He was like 11, so he probably only had about 14 pro fights a day.
Yeah, experience though.
Going back
Very
to
good
the
question.
experience point is, we've not seen it from Canelo-Plant. I mean, he obviously had the use Katagai win, which is a good win, it's a good win. And then since then, Vincent Feigenbutz, Caleb Truax.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned about the early rounds of the fight. That's a fight where Canelo-Plant looked very, very sharp for 3 or 4 rounds, and then after that, it was a bit, kind of laboured to a decision win against somebody in Caleb Truax, who I think it's fair to say seen better days. Had that outstanding win against James DeGale, but not really an awful lot else. But experience-wise, undisputed title, big pay-per-view. Obviously, we've seen the reported purses that are going for this fight as well. How much of a factor do you think that could be on fight night?
I think Canelo's so far ahead of him, it's not a massive... It's not ideal for him, because I do think that maybe there'll be some nervous energy and stuff. You can't even guard against it. How can he guard against this stuff? I think you saw a little bit of how it manifested in that press conference and how he's acting, because he is charged up. And the thing is, the stuff that he's been through outside the ring, none of this phases him, I'm sure. None of it really phases him. But the experience on that massive occasion, it can only be... It's all in Canelo's favour. And it's a bit like when Canelo boxed Mayweather. Mayweather was so used to all of that. He was so much better that in the end it wasn't really a factor, because he was always going to beat him. But he's so much more used to that occasion than Canelo was, that it's just another big dollop of how I'm going to win this, and how you've really got no chance in this.
There's almost no bigger occasion than a Canelo fight anymore. Almost.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
but not for Canelo.
When Canelo, that's what I mean. There's no, like, every fight's so big for him now. There's no one, he can't experience no more.
No.
Like when he boxed Mosley, that was his last fight as an undercard fighter. So he becomes a main guy on pay-per-view. So that's a huge experience for him. But then when he boxes Mayweather a year later, that's another big. It's different again, isn't it? Obviously, because you're not just being at the top of the bill. You're on a different stratosphere. Like when Mayweather boxed De La Hoya, he coped with it because Mayweather's an all-time great. But he went on a different level up again. And once you're up there, then there's nowhere else to go. You're at the top. There's no more bigger. You can do bigger crowds, but the occasion is as big as it gets worldwide. And for Canelo, no, that's what it is. He's a superstar because the Hispanic market has always been the biggest pay-per-view market in the States. So it goes on 2 holidays, doesn't it? It goes on the one in May, Cinco de Mayo, and the one in September. The second week of September, I think it is.
Yeah.
He's so big, they don't have to worry about the holidays because they know everyone's going to flood to Vegas anyway in November. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's got this Canelo. He's like all-time great Mexicans. Like, I don't like to talk about things like that, like all-time great, pound for pound, this and all that crap. But, like, he's as big as it gets, ever. I'm not saying he's not saying the best, but he's as big as it gets ever.
And it seems like he's starting to really relish kind of the. I mean, now obviously he's spoken English for years, but obviously decided not to for whatever reason. He's now kind of being marketed, and I think this is something that Matchroom did really well with him during the period of time that they worked together. Is they gave him the big grand entrances, and we start to see a little bit more of Canelo's personality. And I feel like he's really relishing the moment that he's in his career now, knowing that he's kind of at the peak of his powers in the ring and outside of the ring. I think he's starting to. He's starting to really live that superstar life, even though he has been a superstar for a number of years.
I'd love to. He's one of these guys I wish I spoke his language, because the interview would be. He speaks a bit of English, broken English, and the interviews are okay, but they are what they are. And the same with when you do it for a translator, even worse. I used to think the same about like Povetkin. It'd be so good to just be able to just sit him down and have an interview him properly. And with Canelo, like the whole pajama thing, didn't see that coming. And it's like he must be. Look at his background with all his brothers and all. He must have some unbelievable stories to tell. But he's always been this sort of sullen, withdrawn sort of half smile guy. Particularly when I was covering like the Golovkin fights and that, you never really got much out of him. And you thought, oh, it's because he's so cold. And I don't think he is.
No, he's not.
I bet he's a funny fella, and he's got wearing his pajamas about all the time. I think. But you're right. He's grown into that.
Yeah.
He's grown into that.
He did a really good interview with Graham Bensinger. I don't know if you'd have seen it.
Is it in English?
Yeah. And they do a tour of his mansion, and then they speak to him as well, and they discuss he's doing like Canelo Energy and stuff like that. So he's starting his own like petrol, I think it's like his own gas stations and stuff like that.
He wants to do it. He wants to do electric cars, mate. I'll tell him.
That's it. Yeah, electric. I think he's moving to something like that. But anyway, go and watch the Graham Bensinger interviews with Canelo, and you just start to see like that side of him come out. There's a great quote where they ask him about the Chavez Jr. fight. And Bensinger, who I don't think is the biggest hardcore boxing fan, go and said, oh, what was it like for you to box Chavez Jr.? And Canelo went, easy work for me. and that was it. And then just those little pockets, which I don't think we saw of him.
I didn't realise he was Scouse.
Oh, cheers, mate. Over him with my Scouse accent's awful. But anyway. I don't think we saw those kind of little pockets from him when he was at Golden Boy. And obviously when he moved from there, it was quite a acrimonious departure, and he was, he wasn't shy about telling people that he wasn't very happy there. But I feel like he's very much settled into life as pound for pound #1, biggest name in boxing, and he's kind of embracing everything that's come his way. For Canelo-Plant, that Caleb Truax fight was 30th of January, because I've just checked my phone, 2021. Since then, we've seen Canelo box Avni Yildirim. We've seen him box Billy Joe Saunders. Caleb-Plant, by his own admission, decided to wait it out, knowing that Canelo would eventually come for that final piece of the jigsaw. Mistake or...
Well, financially, it's the best thing he ever done in his life. That's the truth, because you have to realise that's a chance that you might lose your world title and lose befthink him.
Could he not have got like Anthony Durrell was the fight that they
but Anthony Durrell might beat him. He wouldn't, but I don't think so. But I don't think he's good enough. You might think it. I don't think he's good enough to be a guarantee against anyone who's good. If he has to fight people who's good, so you think I'd fancy him massively against Durrell, but it wouldn't be like an all-time world shocker that if he got beat by him. So. He did the financially. You have to wait. If that fight, the biggest fight, the biggest fight in the world. Forget about financially, which is all about that, and that's understandably because he goes home now. He never fights again. He's an uber rich man for the rest of his life. But to want to test yourself against the very, very best, to get the opportunity to do that for anyone, it's worth it. That one time, because whatever happens in the rest of your life, you go, I boxed him. Oh, did you? How'd you get on? I got hammered, but I boxed him. But I got in there with him. And it's true, and it's true. I'm proud. I'm proud. I keep talking about myself. I got more pride about my loss than I have all my wins. Because I went against a guy who was too good for me, and I had to go, and I got battered, but it doesn't matter. I had to go, and I test myself, and that's what you want to do. As much as you want to make a living and all that crap, deep down, you're still the kid who just loved it for the sport. The money ruins it for you. Actually, to be honest. I mean, I never earned the mega money, so I don't know what it's like for them guys. But it's still, in many ways, the money sours it, the sport, for the boxer itself. Even if he's earning loads of it, because it makes it more difficult to the love you had for it. It clouds it. But sometimes you get a big fight like that. That fight you look back to all your life, and you go, I did that. Like all Calzaghe wanted to do. He boxed Roy Jones. He should have boxed. I go off on a tangent, I know. He should have boxed Kelly Pavlik. He would have beat Kelly Pavlik, and then boxed Roy Jones then back in the Millennium Stadium, and then 3 times as much in that fight, and another 6 million or whatever they boxed Pavlik, and earned an extra 15 million quid or whatever it would have been, and finished still undefeated. But he wanted to box in Madison Square Garden. For the bucket list, because he wasn't Joe Calzaghe. No, can I make as much money as I can? He was Joe Calzaghe, the 16-year-old Joe Calzaghe, or the 15-year-old who's winning British schoolboy titles, who dreamed of these. You're in a place you never thought you'd be, and that's the same for Plant. As much as it's about the money, it's also, I don't want to risk anything. I can fight the best fighter on the planet here now. And what if I beat him? Because again, I keep saying about boxers, the eternal dreamers. You have to be to do it in many ways. What if I beat him? And that's it. And he'll go in really thinking he can win. They'll have a plan, and he'll think my speed, my movement, my erraticness, the way I jump into attacks will be Canelo's flat-footed. He's not flat-footed, but people think he's flat-footed, but he's not. He's just grounded. And they'll go, he's flat-footed, I can jump in, I can spin around him, you want to know where I am. You've had trouble with Lara back in like 1732, and it'll be all that sort of stuff. And you'll draw on all these things to give you that confidence. So he'll be flying, but ultimately, he's taking this fight for the money, but also for that kid who turned pro as an amateur, who dreamed of being a great fighter. Or not, I just made that up, but I think that sounded good.
Playing devil's advocate, I know you've said that you heavily favour Canelo. I think we all do. How does Canelo-Plant go about beating Canelo? What's his best chance of things? We've mentioned about the movement. I mean, he's going to have to pitch the perfect game and hope that he still gets the decision anyway. How do you see a Canelo-Plant win looking if
The thing is, I don't think he hits hard enough. I don't think he's got that power to do what... I think the only person who beats Canelo now, and what will happen is if he does go up, he will lose to Beterbiev, for instance, because someone who can hit him regularly hard will be enough to wear him down. I don't think Canelo-Plant can wear him down in any way, and I don't see him chinning him with a shot from the gods, because I think the only way you can beat him is what Golovkin did, is put pressure on him, but at the same time have a good enough chin that your energy's not going down like this, and you're not thinking, I can't take many more of these, because I think that's what's going to happen. So unless he just, it's the same as anything, try and start very fast, and try and, if he starts cold or something like that, hope that Canelo has taken his eye off the ball in some way, but this is not, Sugar Ray Robinson against Randy Turpin, where he's on a world tour and he's got, it's just another fight. This is for the last belt, the last piece of the jigsaw, which has been going on about for ages. It's not like he's going to be lacking motivation or caught cold or not concentrated. He's been in the gym for however long. This is the moment for him. I can't see a way he beats him. He ain't winning on points. And is he going to chin him? Probably not.
I think Plant might be able to punch, but the problem is he doesn't punch because
he's always moving.
He's already thinking about moving it away before. I know that. I watched him and thought, I used to do that. You're always thinking about the other move while you're throwing that punch. So you're moving away anyway. So as you're touching them, you're off. And that's sort of his strength, because he's hard to hit then clean, and he can move off at different angles. So he hasn't got the power. That's what it looks like. And even if he did have the power, he doesn't plant his feet to produce the power. So you have to do loads of feints and draw the lead of Canelo, which is a very simple thing to do. That way, and try and frustrate him, feint, frustrate him, and then pick him off and try and sneak a win, which is not going to happen. Or you feint, and what he does Plant, you throw in clusters, and you smother Canelo's work. If you can do that, you smother Canelo's work. You be dirty when you get in close. You grab him. Again, though, there's nothing Canelo hasn't seen. He's physically massively strong, even though he's always the smallest guy in the ring. He always feels like he's the biggest guy. Even against Kovalev, he looked like the bigger guy. It's a weird thing. His presence is big, and so I think the only way that he can possibly win, and he won't, is doing that. Punches in bunches, and then when you get close, you fluster him with all little pity patter shots, and when you get close, you spin right round the target, so you're behind him, push him, get away. Every time you start throwing, it's not a movement to throw again, it's a movement to escape, and then keep him turning, looking for you, and frustrate him, and try and mess around with him that way. I think that would be his only option. It won't work
for 12 rounds. It just
but it won't work. It won't work. It might not work one time,
Yeah.
actually, but I think I can't see any other way.
You mentioned about him moving up to 175 pounds. Of course, he already has won a world title against Sergey Kovalev.
Could
up
box
there.
Craig Richards.
Could box Craig Richards.
You
There
love
we
Craig.
go.
You either love Craig or
I'm
hate
just
Craig.
saying.
I don't know what-
Just saying that he don't. I don't. I've never heard him say it. That's the one name he doesn't mention. He doesn't fancy. He
That's
doesn't
how you
fancy
go.
Craig Richards.
Canelo Craig Richards at Selhurst Park. There we go. Get to do a stadium over here in the UK. If it's not 175, do you see anyone at 168 potentially causing him any problems? Obviously, people talk about David Benavidez, Jamal Charlo potentially moving up from 160. I think Andrade is going to get that fight by the looks of things, regardless of what happens. Can you see anybody at 160, or does it have to? Is it only going to be size that beats him?
or age and being on the sport too long.
Benavidez there is young, so yeah, that could be that.
I don't see how long Canelo lasts in the sport, to be honest, because what are you in if how much money?
He's going to run out of challenges, surely.
How much
Who
money
is he going to box?
I know he loves it and it's his life, and what it looks like with him, he's one of those. What makes great fighters great as well is that most of them is he trains diligently, lives the life. You know, you've been slagging young Garcia off, haven't you? About why ain't he in the gym? I'm in the gym all the time. Why ain't he in the gym? Because if I'm in the gym, he should be in the gym. You know, one of those, isn't he? He's like a Ronaldo.
That
type.
was great to see, by the way. Just to kind of deviate from that,
He's like a
I really enjoyed that.
He's like a Ronaldo in football. You know, like lead by example. I'm the best player on the planet, or one or two of them, because I'm there all the time. I'm in the gym. I'm working. I'm on the field, and the same with him. I'm in the gym. I'm training. I'm on the pads. I'm working. I'm trying to evolve, trying to get better. You know, all the time. Where are you? You want to be the next superstar, but where are you? And he's right. To be fair, I'm not saying Garcia can't do that. I can't see that either. But I'm not saying he can't do that. But he's saying, if you want to be me, this is what you have to do. He's showing you the formula. And like, many people would love to be training with Canelo. That inspiration. You say success breeds success. You've done it. You know, once you get the Calzaghe gym, look at the Calzaghe gym. You know, in Wales, little place in Wales, and cleverly, Gavin Rees, they're all from there. Just cause, and as much as Enzo Calzaghe was a good trainer, it was Joe. You learn off the fighters above you. That's the truth. You watch them, you learn, you pick things up, and you just see how they conduct themselves when they're training. The intensity of it all. So it's crazy. But I just think age. You can't maintain that level of excellence forever, and he's maintained it for way too long already. So you look at fighters' longevity of excellence. So I'm an 80s product, so I love it. I mean, I was born in the 70s, but I'm an 80s. So the boxers in the 80s were the best ever in my mind. But Ray Leonard's span of brilliance was that big.
Yeah.
He was fantastic. He's my favourite fighter of all time. But and if he was boxing today, everyone would be running away hiding. But he was that big. It was that long. There was Duran had a longer reign, of course, but a longer career. But his reigns were erratic as well. Yeah. But Canelo just spanned, and that's because it's easier to win titles and keep them, of course. But he's boxed pretty much the best fighters around his weight at his time. To be fair to him. Again, the fact that you're the first guy I've spoken about Canelo about 6 times in the last 2 months, and you're the first person, you probably made a mistake because you've got no knowledge, to mention Daniel Jacobs. Daniel Jacobs, who's a really good fighter, gets lost in all those names that he's had. It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree about the age thing. It'll be age or size that does him. And Benavidez, very young, very strong and powerful.
But very green.
He's very green, so we don't know he's totally unproven.
And he had
but if he develops as he develops, I don't see Charlo beating him.
Plant's unproven, so maybe he's the one then.
Yeah, but I feel because Benavidez has that power and that he's aggressive, and but he's totally unproven. Plant is more proven than him. I think he will go up again. I think he'll go searching up there, and maybe he'll beat Beterbiev. I mean, who knows?
He could.
Beterbiev, just the way that Beterbiev boxes is, he can.
He's not hard to find, Beterbiev.
No.
He's not hard.
Maybe he'll keep going up.
See Canelo at Bridgerweight or Canelo? You wouldn't like
Canelo. Look, when Andy Ruiz
he beat Oscar Rivas tomorrow, wouldn't he?
Do you want to watch Canelo Andy Ruiz Jr.?
Imagine
world champion.
Imagine how big that fight would be.
Can you imagine
in Mexico? It'd be unbelievable. Cinco de Mayo 2023.
Yeah.
Canelo wider than he is, just walking, and Andy Ruiz, to be fair.
But he creates history. He'd be the first super middleweight to have all the belts at the same time. No, that's a tick. I'm pretty sure that's true, isn't it?
In the
Oh,
four
four.
belt.
In the four belt era, yeah.
Yeah.
And Joe had them all, but he
Yeah.
had to do an English one, didn't he? The IBF, I think, when he beat Kessler. So he creates another bit of history. How long can you keep going? How much money can you accumulate until you think?
But again, it's kind of what you've said. It may just not be about that for him. And I think that does drive him. I think he'd said to Eddie, or Eddie had made comment about him wanting to go up and become undisputed at light heavyweight after being undisputed at 168 pounds. And you kind of wouldn't put it past him, because I don't think 175 is as strong as it was a few years ago when you had Vosdick, when you had Adonis Stevenson, Barry Jack, obviously a fresher version of Beterbiev, Kovalev still there, and fresh. I feel like now, Bivol's gone off the boil a little bit. Obviously taken out of him by Craig Richards in his last fight, of course.
He'll come back from that.
And
He's been spidered.
he's been
I mean,
spidered.
Canelo could get spidered.
He could. Let's take the fight first.
Maybe get injured. Like Canelo could get an injury. He's been doing it since he was, 1 or something?
You'd imagine there's some wear and tear. I think
Exactly.
he had an elbow injury, I think,
Yeah.
at
He'll
one
do a
point.
world tour or something like that.
Yeah.
Something, it'd be one of those, because so they got to be thinking now, especially Eddie Hearn. They think out of the box. What can we do with him? If he goes back with him, it seems to be like a decent little partnership. I know they're on another channel for this fight, but I'm afraid they're gonna too much gimmicks around him. Like, I didn't like the ring walk and all that he had. I didn't like it. I loved his mariachi band, simple. I was get in the ring, short, and get in the ring, and fight. All that other stuff. Like, for me, there's no that.
He
That's
didn't like J Balvin.
I don't know what that is, but I'm not criticising that. They're good for them, but what I mean is that for me, I like that. He was very like, this is who I am. I'm no nonsense. I'm just gonna come in here, do my job, batter you, and go home.
But he loves a bit of that, by all accounts. Canelo, he loves a bit of the superstardom.
He does. I know he does. No, listen, you do whatever makes him happy. You haven't got to consult with me. but what I'm saying is, like, to be careful not to do too much gimmicks around him. He doesn't need it. Like, the sports having all that too much at the minute, I feel. But like him with that, they start doing a world tour with him now, and he'll fight the best fight from every country.
Would you like to see a Gennady Golovkin trilogy bout?
It's a guilty pleasure, that, isn't it? I think I would.
I think I kind of would as well.
But
Like,
the problem is, the winner this time.
You know what happens.
No, without any controversy, he beats Golovkin now. No, Golovkin. Someone said the other day, I can't remember when I heard it, that Golovkin's not as like lost a step or something like that. I haven't seen that really.
I thought he'd actually looked really good against Jeremita, which was obviously, again, like the level of opponent is not the same, but I feel like he looked...
name, is he? That's all.
Well,
He's a name. He's a horrible name to pronounce.
But I felt like Golovkin actually looked a lot fresher. I felt like there was a period of time where he did look like he'd slowed down. And obviously, the obvious fight is the Derevianchenko fight.
But he has slowed down, though.
But I felt like he looked physically very good against Jeremita in his last fight. And I'd be interested to see how he looks against Ryota Murata at the end of the year when they fight.
That's a style suited for him, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's always been a good fight for him. And I feel like it's probably now the last time he can really do it. And it's a big fight out there. It's a big fight in Japan. Obviously, Golovkin has Korean heritage, and I think that's going to be a better performing fight outside the ring than it's going to be in the ring. Certainly for Murata, I think Golovkin will win that and look good. And I wouldn't mind it. 168. I mean, again, it would all be massively in Canelo's favour, being able to drag him up.
They're the dance partners. They'll always be a good fight to watch. That's because the way they are. Because whatever happens, even though one might box more than he did the last time or whatever, but ultimately, you'll see both of them taking big shots, and they both want to rally. And they're a perfect match. Them two, they're a perfect match. It's a shame they weren't closer to ages, and because they could have had like a fight thing. It would have been just unbelievable. Like really.
Even the fights that we got were great, and I think people kind of
both of me. Literally, they're probably the best moments of my outside the boxing career. Broadcasting, I guess you call it. Yeah. Career was them two fights.
Imagine we would have got the first fight 2 years beforehand. Yeah. Which is when I think the WBC ordered it, didn't they? They put a 30-day negotiation on the belt, and Canelo was like, "All right, well, fuck the belt. Have your belt." Riddick bowed them. Okay, I guess the final thing on Canelo-Plant is to ask for a prediction. Dec, we're going to start with you. We're not going to ask you to be as specific as Barry Jones is.
If you can.
Yeah, I would think that it would be similar to Saunders fight, that he'll catch up with him. I reckon he'll stop him in the last, 9 to 12, the championship rounds. And I think he'll have to take some stick, Plant, and he'll give everything. He won't go down without a fight. He'll just, and it won't be any, no shame in losing to a generational fighter. I think he'll get stopped 9 or 10, something like that.
Yeah, 8 to 10, something like that. I think so. I think Canelo doesn't rush anything, does he?
No.
But I wouldn't be shocked if it goes anywhere. Like, to be honest, but we don't know how tough Plant is. That's the problem. He might be extremely tough and be able to dog it out. I don't know, but I think you have to judge what you've seen, and I just think whatever he does, Canelo will have an answer for, and the answer won't be very nice. That's the truth.
I think he'll have to absorb too much that his feet is going to slow down.
Yeah,
and he ain't going to be used to having his feet slowed down like that, and then he's a sitting duck.
You'll catch him coming in. You'll catch him because when you'll jump, he takes risks. But like I say, he gets away with it because he got fast feet and fast hands. But as you slow down, and against a guy who has really good vision, and by the way, Canelo's a fantastic counter puncher, like superb counter puncher.
Big heavy shots.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
big heavy. So some fighters would sting you with a counter punch,
yeah.
but
it's just like
here's a real try and take your head.
And
off.
I think that's why I say I was joking about that, but I think you wouldn't be shocked if he jumps in and gets caught and just carries on going forward because he's out. And I think that might be the case.
Would you be surprised if it goes the distance?
Again, we don't know how tough Plant is, and it depends if he can still move when he's knackered, basically, and can stay out of trouble and not get pinned. But yeah, it would be.
Yeah, so I feel like we saw some of the answers, or certainly some of the signs of that in the Truax fight. I felt like after 4 rounds, we really slowed down.
Yeah, but
he was having those first 4 rounds his completely his own way.
Yeah.
Caleb Truax wasn't forcing him to do anything. He was boxing at his own pace, all very one-sided. And then after 4 or 5 rounds, the feet stopped going anywhere, and it became a lot of arm punches. And we didn't see the athleticism. We didn't see him hopping in and out with the feet and showing his fast hands. And I feel like if he was in there against Canelo Alvarez and boxing that way, then I would be very surprised if he goes the distance.
I think we saw as well. You say answers in that. I think we saw some answers a bit in Canelo against Saunders. Yep. In that, I fancied Saunders to stay out of trouble for the fight and get beaten widely on the card. So he didn't. He couldn't, because at some point you can't just run about the old fight, and that's not really Plant anyway. And then he will end up absorbing too much, and his cheek will go or something. It doesn't matter how much heart he's got. I think he's gonna get hurt at some point.
And I think we saw in the Billy Joe Saunders fight, again, Canelo starting the fight more aggressively. He came out and he was digging them left.
Yeah, but he was annoyed, wasn't he? He's annoyed again.
But he's going to be pissed off for this fight as well. And he's already kind of openly said, like, I'm going to knock this guy out in inside 8 rounds, or I think whatever he said at the press conference, while Caleb-Plant was standing there.
Or maybe I'll change my prediction to that then.
There we go, at 7.
And if he has no respect for your power,
then you're in real trouble.
He steps on you anyway. But if he has no respect for your power,
if he's going to walk down Gennady Golovkin, he's going to walk you down.
Yeah. But I think he'll do it bluntly. Like he'll be lack of finesse.
Yeah, I feel like we saw some of that in the early rounds of the Saunders fight, which is why Saunders was able to have some success and why the movement was some more of a factor, because it was less nuanced, it was less subtle from Canelo, and it was very much right. I'm going to come in, I'm going to stick this left hook in your body, you're not going to like it. And that's kind of where the fight ended up, and which is why, again, while you were watching it, while Billy Joe Saunders was having some success, never did you think, okay, he could win this, or he might be in with a shot of winning the fight. The writing was on the wall, and I feel like it is for this as well.
Would you be surprised
if it goes the distance? Yeah, I think style-wise, it's a really good fight for Canelo. I think the first 3 or 4 rounds, I do expect Plant to be sharp, but I feel like any kind of hope of him going the distance would have been aided by Canelo not being pissed off and trying. And I feel like it would have had to take Canelo to have a 2 or 3 rounds to start to just kind of put the pressure on with the feet and the head movement, and then maybe Plant survives 9, 10, 11. But I don't feel
it's going to be on him, isn't he?
Yeah,
I think against Canelo, you have to know all that. You tend to think straight away, an athletic fighter has a bit more chance. Like we thought Billy, because he's a great mover, and even Plant because he's athletic, but I think a more structured fighter has the best. You tend to think not, because
like Golovkin.
I think a more structured fighter. No, I think you still have to have fast feet. And certainly, like, I love the word pivot. Can I say pivot? I said if
You love a pivot. That's a Barry Jones bingo.
That is, yeah. Sick
Carl's that
pivot, and we won't go into the details of the rest of Barry.
But you know, I think I think you have to have, like, be quite structured with your work and straight down the line with him, I think, to be honest. Because, you know, he likes to dip and throw uppercuts, and he'll work off the line there. But if you keep your shape well and you're there to block stuff. But to have the confidence, you have to be like you have to have the chin of a Golovkin to be confident. Like he has you have the chin and the confidence to take that shot just in case it doesn't work. And I think other people.
Callum Smith was like that with structure wise, and he just couldn't handle it, could he?
Well, what happens is you're afraid. I know what it's like when you get hurt, or when you feel, or when you're in with a puncher who just misses you. It takes away your confidence to throw a shot. Naz was a master of it. He'd make you miss and make you pay really early with a really hard shot. And then
You don't want to throw another jab.
Yeah.
you put in the pants for the rest of the fight. And what do they do then? They actually slow you down because you're thinking, I gotta throw. Because you're not doing that enough. And you also think, if I make a mistake, I'm getting hurt. You don't care about getting hurt. If I make a mistake, I'm gonna get caught, okay?
Yeah.
And you're like, and then
you
you'll
got
go,
one.
and then you'll go like this. You'll claw at the
It's a
shot.
bit Joshua
It slows you
Usyk-y.
down.
There's a bit of that there.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And you make so many, and then you make mistakes, and they look faster than they actually are because they just slows you right down to a snail's pace. They take away your strengths, but make you miss, make you pay, sort of scenario, but make you miss, make you pay. There's a difference in the way they do it. So Canelo, every shot with Canelo is vicious. Even the jab is like he steps behind it and it's bam, turns that shoulder, and it's just like I know when you say. When you have power, make them feel it early, like we said about Joshua.
Yeah.
You know, you got to try and make Usyk feel that weight early. Well, that's what Canelo does. Even if he's not winning the round or he's not doing a lot, every shot you go, ooh, don't want to feel that one again. Subconsciously, you're thinking, actually thinking that one nice, and then you're moving over this way, and then you go crack with the right. Oh, sorry, with the right crack with the right hand on the arm, and you go, ooh, I don't like that, and then so all of a sudden then whether it's his feet or his or the punches, he's putting you where he wants you in the ring, and you're panicking. And with the panic, you're breathing. I say the same thing all the time, but it's true. The panic, you're breathing, it tires you out. And then we might not see it watching at home. We might not see Billy Joe tiring, or we might not see Golovkin tiring, or anyone else tiring. Or sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But what you do, but he feels it, because again, like I said earlier on, the little tells. Because if people see, when you throw punches from up the guarantee and your jab comes straight out, and it's a solid jab, there's no telling it. It comes right from my eye line, right out straight. As I get tired, to get the fast twitch fibers to generate a bit of speed, you got to do a little movement, so your arm drops a bit. Now you would notice that. We don't notice that at home watching. It's that's a good jab, but he's seen you go
countered.
poof like that,
Yeah.
and that's enough for him to go, bam, bam, or slip, whap. And there's little details like that great fighters with a great vision that don't panic under any sort of pressure, any shots, they're comfortable because they got a great chin and composure, or they're in the fire, they're in the fire frame, you know, all these punches coming at them, getting caught now and again. They don't worry, they're still watching you all the time, waiting for that mistake.
And he'll get one.
Yeah, just like I never used to do. I know it's been done to me, so that's why I know.
Yeah.
Okay, right. To wrap things up, going right back to the start, we were looking at this past weekend. Somebody I want to talk about, unbeaten welterweight star, making his ascent. Certain Jaron Boots returned to the ring with another spectacular performance, first round knockouts against Thomas Delorme. Barry, I know you haven't watched it, so we won't come to you first. Jaron Ennis seems to be the goods at 147 pounds, the heir apparent.
He's the future, isn't he? He's not even the future anymore. He's here. He's well and truly here. It's funny because I was thinking about the division, and I said this before, and I don't want to be negative about it, but like Crawford Porter doesn't do a lot for me as a fight. A lot of people fall over themselves to praise it. It's not for me.
That's a great fight.
I think I know it's a good fight, but I think I know what happens in it. But someone like Ennis, I want to see him against Crawford. I want to see him against Spence.
I'd love to see him against Spence.
And Ortiz is around as well. Virgil Ortiz, he's there as well. But I think Ennis, he is, if not already, like we talk about pound for pound. Pound for pound is it's rubbish anyway, but it's based on achievement and body of work, whatever else. In terms of ability, I think Ennis the
I
business.
tell you what's the future fight in that weight division is him and Virgil Ortiz.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, what a fight that
he, I mean, Delorme, decent opponent. He vaporized the first. I mean, the first punch looked a bit behind the heady. You know, it was, but the way he set it up was nice. He got caught a couple of times himself. I think he just got it all. I don't know what. I haven't seen a lot of him in terms of his personality and stuff like that. And by this point, what is he? Something like 24-0 or something?
Yeah.
Oh no, he's 28-0, 26
Yeah,
knockouts.
so he's right up there already. You know, he's not a prospect anymore.
But the good thing, I like that because
That's lovely, isn't
that's
it?
an old-fashioned apprenticeship,
Yeah,
isn't it? Really,
yeah.
like
And that's probably why he's so good and looks so complete. He looks complete.
he beat the kid. The kid boxed Friday, boxed Tursun by Kalukmet in the York Hall, who knocked him out.
Brew.
The brew, yeah.
So that was no, like Kalukmet was winning the fight Friday night and boxing really well, but Abreu was always in it. You could see dangerous, and he caught him with a great shot. He caught Kalukmet with a great shot, and he was gone. He got up too early and he battered him. And you just think, you look back at, I watched the Ennis fight before that to do my bit of research, and I'd seen it at the time, but I watched it back again, and I thought, this kid's good. He looks dangerous, this kid, but like Ennis is just like...
Yeah.
Yeah, the shot,
Another level.
the uppercut that he rolled and hit him with that.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
like Jamal Charlo. Do you remember when Jamal Charlo hit
both
Julian
hands.
Williams with
Yeah,
the right uppercut?
he blocked he blocked it with that and then threw with the same hand. He's seriously good.
Once he sees a gap,
Yeah.
reactions to what he do, once you make a mistake, once you do something, he's so fast to get on you with it. Like, he's lovely.
He's going to be one of those fighters. Similar to Errol Spence, when Errol Spence had to come over and box Kell Brook, he's going to have to work himself into a mandatory
Who wants to
position.
fight him?
Nobody's going to want to box him, and also he's boxing on Showtime cards, but he's not a PBC fighter.
Is he not?
No, so he's not going to be offered up these PBC guys to smash to pieces on his way up. So
See, that's why I'm a bit hesitant with it because it's sort of, we've seen this at welterweight. I don't want to get too excited because we said the same about Spence, certainly about Crawford when he's coming up, and then nothing happens. And it's just the way we do it. We go, oh, look, he's the guy.
Crawford's welterweight range been
Exactly.
falling, hasn't it?
But I mean, hopefully it's not the same for him and Ortiz. It's it's always the best division, isn't it?
So
He's funny. You got to follow him on Twitter. He doesn't really tweet much. Every now and again he tweets the same thing, and it's 12 rounds of sparring with 3 different guys. Full stop. Feeling good. Something like that. Every time. It's my favourite Twitter account. Every time I do it, I down my drink. Every time I see him tweet that. He's the one though, isn't he? He's the one.
He looks very, very good.
Yeah.
I think again for the American fight though, they want to see his personality. Well, that's the problem. Who promotes him then? Who's he with?
So he had a promotional issue. I can't remember who he was with, but he's now out of that, and he's boxing on Showtime cards. But I think they're trying to get something
I
done.
was going to say, why wouldn't you sign him up? You grab him, wouldn't you?
You'd think so. But again, like, who's going to want to fight him? even if he signed a
That's
BBC.
true. He's going to have to get man.
Money,
Yeah, exactly.
Money though, innit? Why don't his own grab him?
Yeah.
There's the future of his own in the US.
Well,
right
then
there,
there's
isn't it?
problems. Don't do that because then we won't see him against anyone.
Yeah, see him against Conor Benn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Why don't you grab hold of him?
Yeah.
Because people are fighting if there's money involved, and you build it.
I think he's going for the money to really be there for him though. He's going to have to get a fight. He's going to have to work himself into a mandatory position and beat somebody really good. And even then, if he works himself into a mandatory position, and you got people like Crawford and Spence at the end of their careers looking for the biggest fights for the lowest risk, or certainly those career-defining fights. If you're a 34-year-old Crawford, by the time that fight comes around, are you going to want to fight him? Probably not.
Yeah, I've no doubt he's going to be pound for pound number 1.
There we go. There we go.
I think he's the talk about generational talent. He's the next one.
Yeah,
He's the next one.
potentially,
Canelo's
yeah.
now. He's the next one.
Okay, well, we have to end it there because Johnny Fisher keeps ringing me because he's
Go on,
outside. I don't want to let him down. Although he's
don't wanna annoy him.
apologised to me for being early because that's the type of salt of the earth character that he is. But thank you as always for tuning in to episode 26 of the Boxing Social Podcast with myself, Barry Jones, and Declan Taylor. We'll see you next time.